Welcome back to In Ohio Country Today, and joining me now is Mike Hannewald, and he's the Ohio agronomist here for Beck's, and we're at Beck's facility in Atlanta, Indiana. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Being an agronomist, obviously you have to have some kind of background on the farm, so let's talk about your farming background.
Yeah, I grew up on the farm. I'm the second generation on our farm that my dad started back in 1990, back home near Waterville, Ohio, up by Toledo. And Dad started with 36 acres down the road and 2 old John Deere tractors, and it's now grown up to we're just under 1,000 acres up there, corn, soybeans, and a little bit of wheat. So,
talking about agronomy, Mike here is from the area known as the Great Black Swamp at one time. So having to know soil types, growing up in that area, especially being on the farm, you really see a lot, especially a lot of water issues. Let's talk about some of the things the farmers are doing up there with regards to the Western Lake Erie Basin and some of the issues that they were having in the Maumee watershed.
Yeah, so farmers, I believe, they're always they're some of the first environmentalists. They're always doing the best thing for the land because they know that it's something they're going to pass on from generation to generation. And so we've always been trying to do the right things. And the new H2 Ohio program has put a lot of focus on really helping farmers take some of those next steps to get and fine tune their management even further to make sure that where our fertilizer goes is where it needs to go, where it's going to be utilized by the crop, and try and do our best to keep it where it belongs. So we've seen a lot of progress over the last few years in doing our part to try and solve that big problem. So,
Mike, we do crop reports all the time on our TV show, our radio broadcast on iHeartMedia. We're well aware of some of the drought conditions here in the Buckeye State, but some of the forecasts right now as far as crop yields are pretty amazing, that what we're seeing. What are you seeing here in the Buckeye State?
Yeah, so it's definitely from the surface and driving down the road, things can look a little tough. But as I've been getting out in the fields, things aren't great. As far as I'm not expecting us to see a record-breaking crop by any means, but there's a lot more out there than what you might expect with the weather we've been having. These cool nights has really been helping us out, cooling that crop down, getting some dew that helps to give the crop some water even without big rains coming. And so that crop continues to develop. And while there's certainly some really challenging spots out there, overall it's the crop looks decent considering the conditions it's been through.
Now let's talk specifically about that Beck's product and how it's holding up in these various types of soils, as well as the various weather conditions that we had to go through this growing season.
Right. So one of the key ratings that we take when we look at our corn hybrids is we look at anthesis to silking interval. So the timing between when the silks emerge and when the tassel emerges and starts dropping pollen. And it helps us identify strong pollinators, which is a really key feature we look for products in Ohio. And those strong pollinators are really faring well and being able to still pollinate despite some of the stressful conditions that we saw. And so we're optimistic for, again, probably not a record-breaking year, but a decent one given everything this crop's been through.
Did you see a lot of double cropping of soybeans this season as far as the planting season is concerned? I know there are parts of Ohio that are more conducive to that, but especially in your neck of the woods up there in northwest Ohio, what were you seeing after some of that wheat came off?
Yeah, I would say we're definitely seeing a trend towards more of that. We tend to get more heat in September than what we historically had, and we're seeing later frosts, and so double cropping is more feasible up in the north. So I would say it was about on par with a normal trend of what we would see double crop this year. A lot of those double crops went in 5 days to a week earlier than normal because the earlier wheat harvest, and planted into some decent moisture, so they could really use some rain now too, but we'll just have to see how it plays out.
I know you're an agronomist, but we have to talk a little bit about the yields and what the Department of Agriculture is talking about, some potential record yields, and especially about farmers that already have some of those beans in the bin, some of that corn in the bin. I mean, prices are dropping, and it's difficult to kind of decide what to do. So obviously we're going to get through this year's harvest season, but they're planning for next season. What do you see happening? Are you seeing more beans going in now, or what do you see forecast-wise from an agronomy standpoint?
Yeah, so we saw this year a transition of some acres shifting to soybeans. It wasn't massive, but we definitely saw more soybeans planted in Ohio than I think farmers would have intended prior to seeing what the markets did. As we look forward to 2025, we're just starting to take initial seed orders at this this point, so we haven't seen a lot of movement yet. I think a lot of farmers are going to wait and see kind of how prices shake out this fall. But I would expect that when you look at soybeans have a lower cost of input price compared to corn, we would expect to see some of that. But it also, farmers like growing corn, and it is something that it's fun to grow corn, and there are ways to continue to be profitable, and that's at least my focus as an agronomist as we go into this downward cycle of commodity prices, trying to figure out how can we take and make the best of a situation. There's not a lot farmers can do to go out and try and get Chicago to bid higher on the Board of Trade, but there's things we can do on our farms, keep our pencils sharp, know our costs, and make decisions that drive that return on investment.
Well, we could also pray for bad weather in South America, and maybe the Chinese will bite with these low prices and buy a little extra as far as that's concerned, and help raise those prices for our producers out there. We want to talk a little bit about your relationship with Farmers Alliance and organizations like that. You know, Farmers Alliance, one of our fine sponsors on our TV show. I know you work closely with him and other organizations like that. How important is that to have that relationship when you're talking about the Beck's product and organizations like Farmers Alliance?
Yeah, so Farmers Alliance is one example of just an exceptional Beck's dealer that we have. We've got a dealer network all across Ohio, and they're the backbone of our business in providing a relationship with the customer and being able to be that local boots on the ground to help that customer be successful. I've had the privilege of working with Eric there at Farmers Alliance. He got hired as a dealer shortly before I got hired at Beck's 10 years ago, and so we've worked with them for a long time. They're great people, but just one example of the stellar dealer network that we have at Beck's.
Now, of course, we're past post as far as airing this when it comes to Becknology Days, but not only having that relationship with people like Eric, but the people that he works with that are part of that Farmers Alliance, they come to an event like Becknology Days, and you get an opportunity to show them firsthand what's behind the scenes, or behind the curtain, if you will, here at Beck's, right?
That's true. I'm on one of 7 PFR tours where we tour our practical farm research plots and shows the research that we're doing this year, what we've learned in the past, and what we're seeing so far this year. And it's a great time, a great opportunity to share information, and a lot of fun for both myself as a presenter and our customers experiencing it.
Aside from Becknology Days, there are other events too that you participate in with producers as the growing season progresses all the way through harvest, right?
Correct. Probably the next big one for us in Ohio will be Farm Science Review. We've got a booth up on the north end, and then as we get through harvest, we'll be doing our PFR Insight meetings this winter, as we always do, and share the results of what you can see out here today in the plots.
And it's kind of cool being from Ohio and having that research facility in London, Ohio, so close to the Molly Cairn Agricultural Center, where Farm Science Review is held. Let's talk a little bit about having that hands-on facility right in the Buckeye State.
Yeah, it's great. So out here in Indiana, we've got a beautiful facility and awesome plots. They're blessed with some really nice soil here, and a lot of nice loam soils around this area. As we move into Ohio, though, we see an awful lot more clay in Ohio, and that's one of the nice things we like about our London facility. Not only is it placed close to Farm Science Review, but it also is placed on some clay soils, and so we get to see how do these PFR studies change when we move them into the clay soils we see in Ohio, and really tailor those results.
Mike Hannewald, agronomist with Beck's from Ohio. And Mike, if people want more information, why don't you give them that website again?
Yeah, it's www.beckshybrids.com. All the PFR information is there, and all kinds of information about our company. So,
and that PFR book is pretty thick sometimes. So if you want somebody to help diagnose that information for you, Mike would be the guy that you want to see, right, Mike?
Of course, of course.
And we'll have a link to their website as well at inohiocountry.com. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be back with more In Ohio Country today, right after this.